Okay, hey guys, welcome to Gear Time. Today we are going to discuss batteries and chargers and a few other little random things like TSA pre-check.
Yeah, so really, I mean, it's batteries and chargers. It's aftermarket versus
Official,
manufacturer's
yeah.
official OEM product. And so we're going to talk about that with batteries specifically, but we've got a couple other things that we could talk about as far as like when it's a good idea to use that and when it's not.
Mm-hmm.
But
Yeah.
we're going to start out talking about this little baby.
Okay, tell us about this.
Okay, so as photographers, we travel. We like to travel, right? We do as
Part of
much
the
as
game.
we can.
Yeah.
A lot of traveling. We should really have a conversation, and we probably should do a Gear Time Live where we discuss tires. But
We've never had a problem with tires.
never have a problem with tires.
Talking about?
But what we're going to talk about here is when you fly. And what this is, we're going to talk a little bit about the difference between TSA PreCheck, Global Entry, and Clear.
Yeah, which is the competitor now.
Yeah, and what it takes to get them and what it gets you for your bucks and your little bit of trouble in some cases to actually go and get one of these done. For me, Global Entry is
So you originally bought
the
TSA pre-check, did you? Or did you
No,
just
I
go
didn't.
straight to Global Entry?
I did a little bit of homework, and this is something that you can do as homework, but I went straight to Global Entry, and this is the reason why. The difference between TSA PreCheck allows you to leave your shoes on, not take your belt off as you go through the security scanners, and you can leave liquids in your bags. You don't have to pull the batteries out. You usually don't have to even pull like your laptop out. And the thing that got me was about a year ago, they started saying that we're going to have to take our cameras and pull our cameras out of our carry-on bags. And who wants to do that?
No, it's a nightmare. I've had to do it almost every time.
Yeah, you're pulling all the. I mean, what we probably are pulling $5,000, $6,000, $7,000 worth of gear out and spreading it around in different buckets where there's other people going. My wife, we were coming home from Barcelona, and my wife got her wallet stolen out of one of those buckets in the airport.
Wow.
And she was really lucky because she had her passport in a different bag. Otherwise, we would have been in big trouble. So you don't want to, I don't want to spread. I'm very wary. And you're trying to keep track of everything, especially if you have kids with you or something like that. And you can't keep track of all of it at the same time. Somebody could walk off with something, and it's scary. And so for me, that's why I was like, yeah, I'm going to look into this now. Now, here's the difference. TSA PreCheck comes with Global Entry. The difference between the price of TSA PreCheck and Global Entry is $15.
Okay, so you mean Global Entry comes with TSA PreCheck?
No. I mean that you can go and you can get TSA PreCheck if you'd like.
Okay.
That'll cost you $85.
Okay.
If you get this one costs $100, so $15 more.
Okay.
And TSA PreCheck comes with it. It's part of this.
Right. Okay.
And so the TSA PreCheck is administered, that program is administered by the TSA.
Right.
Now, right now, the government's shut down, so I don't think you can get any of them. But the Global Entry is done by, what's it called? Immigration and Border Control stuff, those guys. So,
but this has more worldwide benefits?
It actually makes no difference. The rest of the world doesn't care that you have one of these or not.
Okay.
But what it allows you to do is when you come back from flying overseas, when you go, you know how you have to come in, when you're coming into the country,
customs.
You have to go through customs and border control. This will get you through customs in a different way. Well, everybody
like the
else,
express lane?
Yeah, you walk right up to a machine with your thing, and you can declare. It takes I think it's a handprint. It takes a handprint. So you put the card in, you put your handprint in there. You can declare everything right at the kiosk instead of going and handing your little card to somebody that says what you're declaring or not. And so it gets rid of another one of those lines upon re-entry into the country, which is huge. Now, but it also does everything that TSA PreCheck does.
Okay.
And so what TSA PreCheck does is it gets you through there's an expedited line, and there is less security screening that you have to go through. Now, the one thing that Clear does is Clear basically gives you TSA PreCheck, but it also will get you through the first line. You know, before you walk up to the TSA guy, there's the big, huge, long line. And then you get to the TSA guy, and he says, "Oh, you've got TSA PreCheck."
So you go to this one.
And so you go to that line for your security screening.
Oh, okay.
Clear will get you through the first line before you get to the TSA guy.
Right. They have a separate line.
And then they put you in the TSA PreCheck line after you've hit that guy. So what they have is they have kind of a concierge that you walk up to and you say, "Hey, I'm cleared through Clear." And they do a retina scan and I think a fingerprint scan that they do for you, and they will hand walk you right up to the TSA guy and put you in the TSA PreCheck line.
Okay.
For me, and you guys are saying that they have it at Clear at our airport, right?
Yes, it's Salt Lake. But the problem was we signed up for it. And it was like a 30-day trial, and the problem was as soon as we went anywhere else out of like the 3 big cities that they had at the time, then it was useless.
Yeah,
like we went to Oregon, and then in Oregon is like there's nothing there, so it's just like it's just a kind of a waste.
At this point, there are about 40 airports that have Clear.
So they've expanded. Okay.
And if it's your specific airport and there's consistently a line when you're trying to get in or out, I could see where it might make sense. But
Salt Lake's never been a problem though.
No,
getting in and out, it's not a big deal.
Clear costs $179 a year. A year. This costs $100 for 5 years or $85 for 5 years.
Oh, okay.
If you have a Delta credit card or Delta Sky Miles, you can get Clear for $100 a year.
A year.
But it's still a year. And I mean, unless I was like if I commuted and I was like doing that all the time, and if I flew every week, Clear might make sense. That absolutely doesn't make sense for me. I'd rather do something else with my money.
That makes sense. Okay.
But this works really well. One of the things, once you get it, what you have to do is when you book your flight, you've got to give them, there's a little number on the back. It's your special ID number. And the airline needs to know that number, and then they print it on your boarding pass. Okay, so once they know it, then they see that. If you don't, even if you have TSA PreCheck or Global Entry, you won't get the benefit of it. Okay, because
so it's actually, you've got to do it while you book.
It's kind of administered through the airline itself, where the airline's like, yeah, we trust that guy. He's a TSA PreCheck guy. And most of the airlines are signed up for it, but you could get like Aero Mexico. If you're flying to Mexico and you're flying on that flight, the only reason it works is because they have the partnership with Delta. Okay. Cool. So that's how that works. This is well worth doing. Now, when you want to do Global Entry versus TSA PreCheck, is Global Entry actually requires that you go to customs and you meet with a guy, and they've done a little bit of a background check on you, and they'll actually have a one-on-one personal interview. It's no big deal. It's really easy, but they don't have it at all the airports. They pretty much have it at one airport or 2 airports if you live in a state that's very populous. But in our state here in Utah, Salt Lake City is the only place. And so a lot of times what you end up doing is if you want to do Global Entry, you sign up, and you sign up for you can schedule you sign up online, you pay for it online, you schedule your interview, and sometimes these interviews are like booked way out. I'm guessing with the government shutdown, there's going to be a big backlog. So sorry about that.
Probably.
But you schedule, like, if you're on a layover and you live someplace in California where you're 4 hours away from an airport that has it, then just see if you can schedule your appointment while you're at that specific airport. That'll work. I know a lot of people have done that. For me, driving to Salt Lake was relatively easy and pain-free. A couple other things that are interesting is if you have kids that are under 18, Clear and TSA PreCheck, your TSA PreCheck or Global Entry will apply to your under 18-year-old kids.
Okay.
Okay. If you want to do clear, you like once one person is signed up, you can sign your spouse up for another $50.
Okay.
Okay.
A year.
A year.
Yeah.
So it's still there, but your kids can go under your global entry.
Okay.
It used to be that your friends who you bought tickets with.
I know when the first year they did it right, but then they nixed that one.
Yeah, the first. So a year ago we flew somewhere, and I bought the tickets on my credit card for Brendan and Aaron, and they were automatically included. So
Which
we're
is
like,
awesome.
woohoo, we're doing this from now on. Then we went the next time and it didn't work.
Yeah.
So that sucked. But anyhow,
gotta love that.
TSA pre-check is cool, but if you're going to do it, if you ever in the next 5 years, if you're going to go overseas, pay the extra $15.
So worth it.
Get global entry. You know, for $15 more for over the course of 5 years, it's kind of crazy not to.
Okay.
So that's the first thing we're going to talk about. The next thing we're going to talk about is something that right now.
Batteries.
Yeah. And obviously, I think a lot of us have been seeing, like, you go to the local camera store or even online or whatever, if they notice you're a photographer, all of a sudden these like little advertisements from Canon are coming up and they're warning people, right?
Yeah, so I've seen the Canon ad as, I think it was on Facebook even, or maybe even on YouTube. Yeah, it was like YouTube, like before a video, especially photography video, right?
Right.
So this guy wants to take a picture of his wife and his dog, and he goes back to the camera, and he pulls out this thing with a tape on it, with Canon with a K. And it's really janky. And they're really stabbing at aftermarket batteries, you know, because his camera turns on fire, some bad camera fire effect, you know. And so I'm looking at that and just like, I've never had an issue with an aftermarket battery. But that's because I do a little bit of research before I buy, too.
And I think the reason that Canon is a little bit freaked out right now, it's not just that, I mean, you know, these batteries probably cost them $10 to make, and they're selling them to us
for 70, 80, yeah.
So they're making some money, and that's
sure.
I mean, that's really, I mean, that's legit. That they're a business, they want to make the money. But I think that if the batteries really never had a problem, they probably couldn't be saying that there was a problem, and there legitimately is a problem if you're not careful.
Yeah.
And I think the reason that they're worried about it right now is that on Amazon right now, people have bought batteries that say Canon and look like they're Canon. These are not aftermarket batteries; they're counterfeit.
They're counterfeit. And that's a problem.
I think that's the issue that they're more concerned about. As a matter of fact, I would not suggest that anybody buy any batteries on Amazon or eBay right now, because they're having a hard time. They don't know how to police that. Even if you're buying aftermarket batteries, go to your local camera store or B&H or Adorama or someplace where they have you can trust the relationship between the store that you're purchasing
and their supplier
from and whatever their supplier is.
Okay.
That's the problem with Amazon, is that breaks down sometimes. I mean,
and eBay especially even worse.
I could go and get a whole bunch of Canon batteries from China or whatever. I could sell them as Canon batteries, and you know, it shows up. I'm one of the million sellers underneath, and how do you know if I'm selling counterfeits or not? I guarantee you, Amazon's not checking with me.
No.
I mean, you can even buy, like, I can send my batteries to Amazon's warehouse, and they're shipping from Amazon's warehouse to your house.
Right. And they
but
look
they're
legit.
Still counterfeit.
Yeah.
So that's I wouldn't, for the next near future, I go ahead and buy them, but buy them from, and this is what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about reputable aftermarket versus non-reputable aftermarket batteries. So, this is legit. I moved from Canon to the Sony A7R II. Oh, it's probably been 3 years now.
Okay.
And I got looking at, I mean, the thing that really did it is I was looking, it was right when the 1DX Mark II was coming out.
Okay.
And I was looking, and I used to have a very, very high-end professional video camera.
Okay.
And I mean, it was like a $5,000 video camera.
Okay.
The problem with the $5,000 video camera is that I didn't use it much, but when I needed it, and I just decided, you know, I'm going to get just a regular camera body and use that as my video camera.
Right.
So I got really interested in codecs and resolution, and I started looking at the Canon, and because Canon has their cinema line, I mean, heck, Sony does too with the FS5 and FS7.
Sure, yeah.
But Canon, I mean, let's face it, they suck for video relative to some of the other.
Now, yes, they do now, which is funny because the reason I got into Canon in the first place was because they did video.
Way better than Nikon.
Nikon didn't Nikon had like 720p at best.
Yeah.
And Canon's like 1080 all the way, and it's like no big deal.
They're the cinema guys. They know cinema, so they're gonna.
Right.
But you know, I think they've limited what they'll put in.
But now they've capped. Yeah, now they've capped their digital SLRs to try to sell their cinema line, and I've seen a lot of videos and a lot of people talking about that's bad. Like, why? You know, because now even like the 5D Mark IV, which is their newest 5D, should have 4K without issues, and it's like this 4K weird JPEG thing. It's just like, and it's just kind of stupid.
And
it's crippling it.
The 1DX Mark II, they say, is basically the same camera. We're kind of getting off on a tangent.
Yeah.
But they say it's the same camera as one of their cinema cameras. I don't remember the model number, but they won't even let you upgrade the firmware on your own for either of those cameras because they're afraid that you could literally send in the 1DX Mark II and get the firmware for the other camera, which would open up all the options, all the other options and resolutions and stuff. But anyhow, that's neither here nor there. So what I did is I was like, oh, you know, I've got this new camera. I've heard that they're little teeny, crappy little tiny batteries that
don't last very long, right?
Into the Sony Alpha cameras before the Mark IIIs came out sucked. I heard the battery power sucked, and they do. I mean, you know, it's like I would have to keep a handful of batteries in my pocket.
I think it's pretty small.
Because I could go through 2.5 of these a day, realistically.
Yeah.
And so I was like, oh, look, I could buy 6 of them or 8 of them from this company. And it was called Red Dot.
Okay.
So I'm over there, and I've got a handful of these in my pocket in Thailand. And all of a sudden, my pocket started getting really warm. And I reach in there, and I pull this one out that's like way hot. And I put it on the floor, and I watch as it melts down. The battery melted down. And I was like, oh, maybe that's just a fluke. And then one time I picked up the camera with one of these in there, and the handle of the camera, which is where the battery was super, super hot. And so I ejected that battery, and I went back to my 2 Sony batteries for the rest of the trip. I got rid of all of them, and I just ran into one of these the other day.
You still have. You're lucky it melted in your drawer.
I still have. The other thing is that they're kind of like, some of them are kind of crappy, and they work just fine for a couple of months, and then they start, you know, so just enough time for you to leave a good review on the nice cheap battery that you got a good deal on, and then they don't work anymore. So our suggestion is, and we have had some really good luck with some, and I thought this was actually interesting too, because we use, I mean, I think all of us, I don't think I have a single Sony product that uses the Sony NP550 or 570 battery. They actually go on a...
There's that going right here too.
They were built originally to go on a Sony camcorder.
Right.
And I've got one of those that's even bigger than this.
Handycams in the 90s that had the big old extra. This is the middle. There's a small, medium, and there's a large one.
I've got 2 of the large ones. But this is kind of funny right here. This is ICANN, which is one of the lights that I have. That's an LED light, right? Check this out. Made in China by Castar.
Oh, okay.
Right? So they're actually, like, you get this battery that the light manufacturer contracted with Castar, who's an aftermarket third-party battery manufacturer, to make for them. So we've got, like, Castar is one that I trust, right? And I trust Wasabi, right?
Yep.
And you have one that
and they've always made Canon batteries, and I think they're expanding into other battery lines, but the one I've been using and trust is STK.
STK.
And they actually have what's nice about this is I actually ordered this on Amazon, and it came from Las Vegas.
It
came from Las Vegas, and I looked up their address, and they actually have like a Vegas headquarters in Vegas. So I'm like, oh, that's cool. Like, this is the official SDK, so it's actually
Okay.
pretty cool. So it's Sterling Tech is the name of the actual company.
Okay, see, for me, I'm like Castar or Wasabi. I will buy those as aftermarkets.
Yeah, and Aaron has Wasabi here that he's used for the GoPro.
I've used those two a lot.
And had never had a problem with these. And I have friends, and I've used Wasabi. The problem I've had with Wasabi in the past with my Canon batteries is they just didn't seem to have very long life.
Yeah, they
died out
degrade
after
quicker.
after like 6 months. They seem to degrade really fast, whereas the SDKs seem to have a longer life.
See, there's a Wasabi, the LPE6.
But I've never had Wasabi do anything harmful.
It's not going to burn up.
Right.
So my wife has an A7 III,
Okay.
and I have an A7R III. And when I first got the A7R III, before the camera even came, I was like worried about it because when there's a new battery with a new camera, a lot of times you have a problem because there are no aftermarket manufacturers.
Oh, right,
yet.
right.
And the first ones that come out oftentimes are from some dumb company that I don't know and isn't reputable. And so until the other ones came out, so in this case, I just said, screw it, I'm going to go ahead and buy it. And there was a deal where Best Buy would give you, like if you bought 2 items under $200 that were camera accessories, you could get the third one free or something.
Okay.
And so I bought 3 not aftermarket, but actual real Sony NP-FZ100s.
Okay.
When I bought them, and I got the third one for free, which dropped the price considerably.
Oh, okay.
Another thing that I wanted to talk about a little bit.
Difference?
Well, you're comparing two
there's different batteries. Okay.
I mean, if you compare that one to here's a real Canon LPE6. I bet they're about the same.
They're about the same, actually. Yeah.
Bet that would be really hard to. Another thing I'll share with you is the TSA is starting to get to the point where they're concerned about our batteries, more concerned about the batteries, and I think the reason they are is more because of these little guys.
Because when these things go bad, they go crazy bad.
Yeah, this one you can only fly with 2 of these. This is the battery for
Inspire One.
Because I just got a Inspire One. I had some friends that were selling one, and I got one super cheap. So I am back in the Inspire One business. I've got an Inspire One and Inspire Two, and this battery is the TB48 that they have, and with the Inspire 2 they have a TB55 and a TB50. The 55s with the TSA, you can only carry 2 of those batteries per person.
And those are bigger
because they're over the milliamp amperage that is legal. And what is it? It's 100 milliamp hours is the limit that you can hit.
See, these are 57.
I'm sorry, it is, geez, if I remember right, it is 5,000 milliamp hours.
Oh, okay.
And I think that's right. And the TB47s are 48.
Yeah, 4,800
milliamps. And so there's just a little tiny bit of a difference, but that's enough to do the trick. Now these guys too, if you get these kind of battery packs, you got to be careful, because if you get one that, like this one is 20,800 milliamp hours, I can carry 2 total batteries that are bigger than that. I mean this one's okay, but I have one that's really, really big, and that one would count as one of my 2 batteries that is over the 4,800 milliamps.
And that's for carry-on. Is there a different rule for packed luggage that's going to be checked?
No, but you can carry as many. Like I can carry as many of these on as I want, but I can't check any of them.
Oh, you can't check them though.
You can't check them. It used to be, I mean, geez, it was probably 4 years ago, we flew to Hawaii, and I took my Inspire One, and I had a big case for it and everything, but I checked everything. I checked all the batteries, and it was no problem. It was a big, big, nice kind of Pelican type case for it. I checked all those batteries. Now you can't do that. So what I end up doing is I've got my shoulder bag that is completely full of batteries. when I fly, and it's heavy, but
Yeah.
it's my personal item is batteries. That's what I do. Just load it up with batteries and carry that. But what I was getting at is that what the TSA is starting to require is that you take the terminals, and they want you to tape the terminals up. And so you take, what I always do, and these two batteries are not ones that I've ever flown with, but what I do is I take a little piece of gaff tape and I keep it on the battery itself.
Oh, okay.
And then you can just tape that gaff tape over there, and then you're fine. The other thing that they're asking is they don't like to see loose batteries rattling around in your bag anymore.
Right.
And actually, since I bought this because of that,
Okay.
but I love this thing. This is from Think Tank, and this is a little battery bag that's called the DSLR Battery Holder 4. They've got a 2 as well, and this just works just perfect for the Sony batteries or for Canon. And I have never tried Nikon, so
Probably
I don't know.
similar size,
But,
yeah.
but I keep these in here. And the other thing is, Aaron, so what I do is I put the numbering
Use a label
on here.
maker and number them, yeah.
And the other thing that's smart is that you take and you label when you got the battery.
Yeah, that's what I started doing with mine. See, it says August 2018.
Yeah, so you know how long you've
So I
got
know
it.
when I've got it. I know when I bought it, yeah.
And then what I generally do is I rotate through them, okay? Because I want to get the same amount of use on all the batteries. And so that's why I've got these numbers on here. And then when I've used one up, I just reverse it and put it back in there upside down.
Oh, okay.
And then I can keep track of, okay, that's the dead one versus the live one. Some of our bags actually have, like Peak Design actually has little battery bags in there where the stitching is red or green. So you put the used up batteries in the red side, the green ones in the,
That's a good idea.
new one. So
Yeah.
I just flip them over like that. But this has been really, really handy for me. I can fit it in one of the little slots in my right in with my lenses and everything in there. Where you always have these little nooks that are in there. And I drop that in there and I don't lose them. And so I love that.
Nice.
I've got this other one, and I would be showing you these, but we're using them all. As a matter of fact, in these battery packs, I can show you these. This is another aftermarket battery we've talked about before that's very trusted, but we're using them right now. These are called the Lada.
Yep.
And what these are, it's pretty well documented that these come out of the same factory as the Eneloops from Panasonic.
Yep.
And you can buy 4 of them at IKEA, your local IKEA store, for 4 of them costs like $6.50, $7.
Yeah, I think it was about $7 for 4 of them. Yeah.
And this, which is also from Think Tank, will hold 8 of the
4 per pouch.
double A's. Yep.
Okay.
And then you just fold it up like that and like that. Now
So they have double A's and triple A's. I bought 3 packs of the triple A's because they sold them in 2 packs for the triple A's.
Yeah.
And I bought those for wireless headphones that I have at home. Oh, maybe they were 4 packs, 2 4-packs, I guess. Yeah. So they do AAA and AA, but the Ladas actually sell, like we discussed, in 2 different sizes.
Yeah.
They have brown ones and white ones. And if you want the white ones, they're going to cost more, but they actually have like almost 3 or 4 times as much milliamp hours.
The lower milliamp versions will last
Longer in like remotes and stuff like
but
that.
they're for remotes or like a smoke detector. That something
they work more like alkalines where they have a long life, but they don't have as long of a charge. So
okay, so there's batteries. This is another area I would never ever, no matter what, without any battery, I would never put an aftermarket battery in a drone.
Okay, so it's a temptation though, because I have an Inspire 2 that I want to get a battery for, and I don't want to spend $100 for one, but I'm looking at Amazon and an aftermarket battery is only $50. It's half the price.
A brand new a brand new TB48, and this is an old drone now, and if you're buying a brand new TB48 from a distributor, you're paying $170. Okay, so I could see why you'd be
tempted to buy, right?
But the problem is that if you take this cap off this battery, underneath here there's
a pretty hefty circuit board.
Pretty hefty circuit board, and some of the camera batteries that we have a microchip in them as well. And those, when you have something like that, if they change the firmware, then all of a sudden your battery is not going to communicate the same way with your camera. And if that happens, then you don't know when you're really running out of batteries, which is one thing, provided that it's not burning your camera up,
Right.
which is a different issue. But it's a different thing to run out of batteries when you're flying a drone than when you're using your camera. If you don't know when your battery, and that's the reason that these are really important, that they have accurate, we just went through with the Inspire 2 and with the Matrice M200 and M210 that the fire departments and stuff are using. They just went through, over the last 6 months, kind of a big battery fiasco where there was a firmware update that would put us in a situation where we were a little apprehensive about whether or not the drone was reporting accurately the amount of juice that was still in the battery. Remember when we were in Oregon and I was flying it out over the ocean over there? And I'd bring it home earlier than I normally would because I was nervous about what my real battery meters were reading.
Right.
So one of the tips and tricks there is that at that point we could start reading voltage instead of percentage.
Right.
And then we could keep track of that. Was reading.
So the real problem with these aftermarket ones is if your drone gets an update and you update the firmware, they update the firmware in the batteries too with the drones.
Yes, it
And
does.
an aftermarket chip, if a firmware update happens and it can't communicate properly with that battery, the aftermarket battery, then you just spent $50 on it's just
Nothing.
waste
It's
because
bricked.
it's bricked. You can't use it.
Another thing I can also tell you about any of your batteries that are lithium ion is battery maintenance. These big, huge batteries, and I think what people need to realize is that when you fill this battery is a 20,800 milliamp battery. This is a 5,700 milliamp battery. But the individual cells in this one are much smaller than these. These are designed to discharge really, really quickly. And so, you're going through, like, I know I have a little thing that I can hook on this and I can turn this into a charger for my cell phone.
Right.
I can charge like an iPad up like 8 times off of this thing.
Right.
You know how long the iPad will last on a battery? Well, the drone uses all that power up in 15 minutes.
Right.
And so they're really designed they're volatile.
For high discharge, yeah.
So what they do is after 7 days or 10 days, if you have a drone, you've got to be careful. It will self-discharge to about 50%. If you're going to store your batteries for a long time, it's a good idea to leave them at about 50% charged. What it is not a good idea to do is to let them go completely dead. Because a completely dead battery with lithium ion could actually short. That's when they get dangerous. Okay, so when you travel, if you're going to travel somewhere and you want them in the safest state possible, about 50% charge is a good
That's
point.
a good tip.
Now, I've got a bunch of these aftermarket battery chargers.
Yeah, battery chargers. So they've got official battery chargers that usually come with your camera kit. Like this is the Canon one, it only does one. But I want to charge 2 batteries at the same time. So I did a little bit of research and found, looks like it's even Russian. It's a weird,
I wanted it in camera view.
sorry, this
You
one.
guys haven't done any.
Sorry.
That's from Wasabi. That's
True.
from Castar. This one's actually from ICANN.
So this one is a funny name, and I can't even pronounce it, but it's actually interchangeable. They actually designed this so if you have,
That's
so if you
what
switch over to Nikon or whatever, then you can just get the little adapter and plug it in. And I've never had a problem with this, but I bet there are some pretty dodgy ones though. If you bought battery chargers that aren't charging properly, there's probably some voltage issues you could have. I don't know.
I haven't seen many, but I will tell you that the very best battery charger I've ever had was from an aftermarket battery company that's been around forever. It's a photography equipment company, and they sell a lot of aftermarket stuff. It's Hanel, Hanl, and it was a Hanel Cube. And that one was beautiful because I could actually charge a couple of different kind of batteries with it, for one. But the other thing that it would do is it would tell me how full the battery was. And so that's nice to have a display.
Which is what the
that
Canon
actually
does, which is nice. The Canon does. It doesn't have a digital display, but at
these
least
guys
blink
don't.
and tells you. These ones don't. They just turn blue when they're done.
This one does.
This one does though, yeah, with LEDs.
So a couple other things. I think that's enough about batteries. Although we've got
there's these guys too. So these are your typical battery pack. Jackery brand is always a good one. This is one I've had for a while. It's been very reliable. Never had an issue with it. Had good reviews. has a little LED light that comes with it, which is handy, I guess.
I've got a Castar one. I've got a Rav Power one, which is another good brand that's an aftermarket.
Yeah, so we'll talk about charge. This is part of the charging discussion, I guess, too. The Rav Power, I just picked this up from Amazon.
I have one of those.
And this is a
I love
6
it.
USB port. And I got this thing and I was just like, wow, this thing has some heft to it. And Rav Power is one of those companies that have come out lately that have just every like quarter seems to improve. Like their design is better,
Yeah.
the quality of the electronics are better, and they're getting better and better reviews. And so that's one company that's really up and coming that I would trust.
Yeah, Rav Power is good. I've taken, and I've got one of these, and I put the industrial Velcro on it, and I put it on my nightstand.
Right.
And I can take it off if I'm going on a trip,
Right.
and take it with me because it has, 6 ports here to charge with. But I leave it
This
on
is
my
like
nightstand,
$25, and I was
charge
like,
that
I thought that was a pretty good deal.
Yeah, so that's a great one.
Because I had one that had 8 ports in it, and I bought it, and it pooped out. It just completely died on me. The charger just died, so I was like,
Yeah.
oh, I have to find something different. So another thing I want to discuss with batteries is something like this. So this I cannot take apart.
Right.
This one is kind of a self-built one, and what you do is you buy the 18650 batteries and you populate it yourself.
I don't know anything except your headset your headlamp that uses those.
That's kind of why I got this, because I bought this as part of like a KSL deal and I had some credit. So I was like, okay. So the cool thing about this thing is it powers up and it actually tells you how many battery cells there are and how full they are. And I thought that was pretty cool. So it popped that one in. So these are fully charged. And when I need a battery for my headlamp, I just pop one of these out.
Yeah.
And if I want to charge them back up, it's got the USB port to charge, and it also uses it to charge my iPhone and stuff. So
I love it when I've got a 2-for-1 now.
yeah, so I thought this was really cool. It's the case, and it has a lot of functionality built in, and it tells me in the little readout where I'm at. So I thought that was really cool.
That's awesome.
That's a T-Life, and I've been really happy with this one. Never had a problem with it.
Okay, the next thing we're going to get into just a little bit is some other quick good ideas. And the first one, this is super fast. We're going to cover this really quick. I've lost a couple of lens covers.
I lost mine too in the wilderness. So we got a couple of these.
And it makes me so mad because if I want to buy another one that is the Sony one, the Sony ones are like $25, $30
That's
each.
a lot for a lens cap.
It's so dumb for just a piece of plastic. But
Yeah.
what we're paying for is the printing that says Sony, right?
Right.
And so what I've decided to do is when I get a new lens, I take the Sony one, I put it away.
Mm-hmm.
I will sell the camera with a brand new lens cap that has never ever seen any use. And I get these ones, I like the center pinch
Yeah,
ones.
I like those too, yeah.
These are totally aftermarket, and then
They're like $6 or $7 at
Yeah,
most
it
for the
is.
big ones.
you can buy these for $2 a piece.
Right.
That are totally no name.
Yeah.
And then I got these, I was like, well, I wonder if there's any difference. These are from Breakthrough Photography, which I love.
Oh, okay.
But you know what? Realistically,
They look
there's
almost exactly the same.
really basically no difference.
Yeah,
This one, I'm paying an extra
for the
$5
screen print for screen
for
printing.
Breakthrough Photography, which is less than Sony.
Mm-hmm.
But that's what I'm paying for. And then this one's like $2. And so I just replace, the minute you get your dumb lens, you replace this. I've got a ton of these kicking around all over the place. They switch between, it's like, oh, I need an 82 millimeter lens cap, and I just put it on.
Exactly.
I don't care which one it is.
Exactly.
And it has lowered my stress level quite a bit about trying to keep track of these. In the wintertime, you shove them in a coat pocket, and then you find them 3 months later in the wrong coat. I mean, it's just dumb. So that's a good tip for you.
Okay.
And then the other thing that we're going to talk about a little bit is another thing that a lot of us use aftermarket supplies for, and it's printing. And there are, just like with batteries, there are pros and cons of using aftermarket supplies in your photography printer.
Yeah.
I have ruined at least 2 printers with aftermarket ink.
Oh, wow.
One time, and I will tell you, I have never found good color laser aftermarket ink. So for my office, I sell real estate, so we print flyers and they have a picture on there.
Right, right.
And so we needed high volume, so we've got this big, huge HP
Okay.
printer, and we destroyed the print head. I mean, we basically
And it's a laser head too.
$6,000 printer.
Yeah, those aren't
with aftermarket toner. So never use color toner that's aftermarket. I've never heard of anybody having a good experience with that.
Okay.
And I've done my research.
But what about black and white? I've got a mono one that I have.
Black and white, I've never used with HP toner that's black and white. I've never used HP toner for it. Ever.
And it's been fine. I've got a
And it's
Samsung
fine.
one. I've got aftermarket. Works
no
perfectly
problem.
fine. Never had an issue with it.
The other thing I've done is I've destroyed a couple of print heads in inkjet printers as well with aftermarket ink. But that doesn't mean it doesn't work. It just means don't experiment with it. Let somebody else do it and read the reviews or look
You
it
got to do a
look
little
it up.
research. Yeah, yeah.
I think both of us use Canon right now.
Yes, I've got a Canon 9000 Mark II Pro 9000 Mark II that I've been using for a few years.
And I've got a Pro 100 too. And Blake now makes them for that too.
Yeah. So years ago, I found this company on Amazon, and it looks like Drew also found them on his own, but that's Blake Printing Supply.
Yep.
And I go straight to his page on Amazon, and then I find my model printer that I want.
Yep.
Because after a little bit of experimenting, I found out that this guy is not only cheap, but he's more flexible. You can buy the colors you want more without having to buy the whole multi-pack.
Yep.
And you can save some money there and kind of customize your order. And then you can even email them directly and customize your order, which is awesome. So they're really flexible, and they've never ever had an issue, and the colors are great.
Yeah, the Blake Printing Supply, I've got a Tupperware kind of container that I have sitting in my cabinet right there that's full of these. I was looking through them right now, and I think I've got 10 greens, and I've got 2 photo cyans right now.
Right, because that's when you go through the most, right?
And so the Blake Printing Supply, I can call them up and they let you. So what I'll do is I'll say, okay, I need an 8-pack or a 10-pack, but I want 6 of them to be photo cyan, and I want 2 of them to be black, and I want 2 of them to be photo magenta. And I can buy that package from him, and it is awesome. And I have printed, I mean, I'm to the point where
I printed lots of stuff. I mean,
my print head is starting to not press against these as hard as it should be because I've worn it out. So these have the little chips in them that's required to tell your computer how much ink is left and whether you've run out of one or not. When I was first starting, I was like so used to toner this stuff being so expensive, I would take a hypodermic needle and I would extract as much as I could out of the previous one and inject it into the new one.
Right.
I don't anymore. I throw them away.
Right.
Because these are cheap.
Yeah.
And they do a great job and they match your colors pretty well.
I mean, when you're comparing from the OEM to these, especially the Blake Printing Supplies, the OEMs are 3, 4, 5 times as much. I mean, it is ridiculous, the price difference.
Crazy, crazy different. Now, the other thing I've heard though is that a lot of times, here's another tip, and I have not done this, but I want to buy a pretty large format printer. And understand, you could always buy large format printers, and there's somebody has a larger format printer than you do, right?
Always.
But I had an Epson Stylus Pro 10,000
Okay.
back in 2003 or 2004 I bought it.
Okay.
And that thing comes with these 1 liter like
massive ink.
print cartridges.
Yeah.
What you can do is you oftentimes can buy, and you got to be careful. I mean, Epson has 2 different, like you could buy the printer. You used to be able to buy the printer and you could say, I want a pigment ink or I want the dye-based ink.
Oh, right.
And once you set it up and once you've run it, it is what it is for the rest of the life of it.
You don't want to swap.
You can't switch.
Okay.
If you get the wrong ink, you're screwed. But you could get like your pigment-based ink for the larger printer, and then if you can transfer that ink, like these little guys have a little felt pad that transfers the ink to the printer, you could transfer that ink, and so you buy the big, huge carton that is real OEM Epson or Canon, and then you transfer the ink and refill these little guys with the real OEM ink from the larger print cartridge.
But then it's a lot of, it can be messy, it's a pain in the butt. It's just, when you can buy cheap aftermarket like this, it's just so much more,
with this,
just so much better.
With this one, it's a no-brainer, but if you start getting into the ones that have the big cartridges, if you've got a printer that Blake doesn't produce ink for, then at that point you can go and you can buy a larger cartridge that is OEM for the larger printer, transfer the ink.
And you do get better deals in volume when it comes to ink.
That's why. Okay. That's why. Because, I mean, if you're, you start thinking, and if your printer prints like tabloid size is your largest size,
right?
Then what they're going to sell your printer ink to you for per milliliter is a very different price than if you have a printer that's printing stuff like this.
Right.
So because you would be like, I'm not doing this anymore if you have to print.
It costs way too much.
Something that's that big.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's 100 8.5 by 11 sheets all in one shot. You'd be like, nah, I'm not doing this anymore. The other thing that I've experimented with a little bit is photo paper.
Okay.
Now
there's lots of options for photo paper, right?
Lots of options for photo paper, and I, to begin with, I just use the manufacturer stuff all the time, and I'll give you a hint there, is that if you can buy the actual OEM from other people that got some sort of a deal.
That's what I usually find
so,
out.
So a lot of times I'll buy stuff on eBay or even on Amazon
locally, yeah,
where somebody else has a stack of photo paper somewhere. Or like this one is from Epson. I don't have an Epson printer right now.
Right, but they still make good paper.
But the paper works just fine, and you just try to match it to whatever the Canon version is that's closest, and it works just fine.
Right.
This one is one of the aftermarket companies that I've used is Paperboy, and they do a pretty good job.
Okay.
And here's a huge one. And if you can ever find this in stock,
really,
this is cheap from Costco.
And that's why it's always out of stock, because
and that's
people
why it's
snag
always out of stock. But
150 sheets too. That's a lot.
I think I bought this for less than $20 for 150 sheets.
Wow. Okay,
So,
and that's actual glossy photo paper.
oh yeah, this is great stuff.
Okay.
I mean, I'm mostly, look at this.
It's almost all out too. Oh yeah, okay.
And it's designed for inkjet. It has that coating on it that holds it.
I'm a fan of the semi-gloss matte finish. That's one of my
Love that.
favorites.
I use that and gloss. I have both of them.
Glossy's
The
tough
luster-
because the luster,
luster.
because glossy's tough because once you get your fingers on it, then the prints it can be really annoying. But the matte is so much easier to handle and stuff.
It is.
It's nice.
It is, and it looks good. So I think that's kind of what we got for you today.
Yeah.
We were going to do, if you're coming and you were expecting, because we talked about it last week, that we were going to be talking about an unboxing of the Star Tracker. That's coming still, but we have had snowstorms.
And nothing but foggy weather and overcast. And,
well, we lucked out on I mean, if you future people are listening to this, this is the week we just had the full lunar eclipse, and that was super fun to shoot.
Yeah.
We had a blast doing that. Several of us were hanging out on the Photog Adventures page, and Aaron was live streaming from his balcony.
From his telescope, which is awesome.
From the telescope, and it was super fun, and a lot of us have gotten some really good pictures, and that was a good time.
Yeah.
But that was about the only clear night, and that didn't work. For Eric was probably somewhere filming it on a mountaintop with a rock climber in the foreground or something. I don't know.
Right.
But Eric Benetetti is going to. We've got everything for the Skywatcher Star Adventure tracker.
Okay.
We've got all the parts, and they're all still in the box.
Okay.
And so
that's coming up as a future episode.
Yeah,
pending on, we're not sure exactly when, but
do you want to do? We'll do it. I think we're going to get it done in the next week.
And then we also want to bring to you some tilt shift stuff. So first, we want to go out and actually do some tilt shift photography and video to show you guys, and then we can splice it into the live video like we did with the macro stuff.
We want you to be able to see what the camera is seeing as far as like actually moving the tilt shift lens around and show you a live view of what you're getting. Not inside of a studio, but outside where we're trying to take a picture of a big building, for example.
But can I use tilt shift for macro? I want to put that thing on the end of my bellows. How cool would that be? I want to experiment with that and see. So,
well, you know what might be really fun there is not the shifting, but the tilting.
Yeah, exactly.
Where the tilting you put that at an angle, and then you can get like one weird stripe of focus.
Yes.
through the.
I know, that's why I want to experiment with that. So I think that'd be kind of fun
That'd
too.
be really
So,
fun.
hey, you guys, thanks for joining us. I want to just tell you guys, to remind you guys of the workshops we have coming up this summer, which is photogaventures.com/workshops. And we're going to show, without the S, workshop. Okay. photogaventures.com/workshop. And Aaron's going to go and show a little preview. And thanks for joining us. We'll catch you later.
Yep. Have a good one.
This has been an awesome trip. Wonderful bunch of guys. Very positive.
I thought everything was, pretty close to perfect.
Aaron and Brendan are really approachable. You ask any question any number of times, they're really helpful to you.
It was really great having you guys with your knowledge of the location beforehand.
Oh, I would definitely say come. They're so down to earth. These are a great group of guys to go out with.